Ladies and gentlemen, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 gave some very interesting first impressions from what we've seen from its initial reveal. From the beautiful world and its one-of-a-kind looking gameplay, really had me excited. But since then, people finally got to get their hands on this thing, so let's take a deep dive into it and find out why this really solidifies the fact that this game is definitely going to be something spectacular. And remember to hit that like button and subscribe to keep up to date on all the new upcoming games you're not going to want to miss. So Sandfall Interactive is the studio that's publishing this, and it really looks like they cracked the code when it comes to creating a very appealing JRPG, as it shows off some very impressive real-time turn-based combat alongside the story and art design that can't be ignored, and we're going to get into that in a bit. Another tidbit of information that I want us to keep in mind as we go is that this studio itself is only made up of around 30 people or so, and with some of the systems that they have in play here, we should really take stock in the fact that they're about to potentially put out something incredible with such a small crew. Anyways, enough of that. Let's talk story, what this game is about, and what initially sunk its hooks into me right away, because it's fucking out there. The concept of this game is we're set in a fictional world where people are dying off when they reach a certain age, and there's a mysterious figure called the Paintress that's causing these deaths, as every year she's going to paint a number and everyone from that age is going to vanish from existence. This number is getting smaller year after year, and as the number gets smaller, so too does the entire human population. So essentially, time is running out for humanity, and if they don't put an end to this cycle, eventually, no one will be old enough or left alive to stop her. So it's up to the yearly expedition of those whose numbers will be up next, and they spend the last year of their life to try and stop her from ever painting again. We take this expedition to a place called the Continent, as this is where the Paintress is, and our story begins. So it definitely has one of the more unique settings and stories that I've seen, and the continent itself, I gotta say, is absolutely beautiful, and reminds me very much of like an Alice in Wonderland meets Dark Souls world design, with the world being very vibrant and colorful while having islands floating in the air. You have segments of the game where you're just walking around underwater because, you know, we could totally just breathe underwater just fine. And I would expect to see a lot more of this interesting biome diversity as the full game launches. This is all met with Dark Soulish enemies and characters that are absolutely stunning, well written, and exceptionally voice acted by some major names too. We got Charlie Cox, Ben Starr, who played Clive Rosfeld in Final Fantasy 16, and we'll be playing Kazan in the upcoming first Berserker game. We also got Andy Serkis, who played Gollum in The Lords of the Rings, and even Jennifer English, who's the voice of Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate 3. So this is a big help to elevate the storytelling in this game, and I think this goes well with the more linear design they're going with for this game, as it's going to be more on rails with a little exploration here and there, but it's going to make for a more cinematic playthrough. Now, the gameplay of Clair Obscur is what really put me over the edge, as it has a real unique mix between a JRPG and ARPG mechanics. As you move around on more of this linear design map, as you would expect, there's going to be enemies, but once you engage them, this free roam will end, and it will change into your turn-based combat. However, it's not fully turn-based, and this is what gets me excited. Again, they're sticking with this more cinematic feel, so each character will have their own skills and abilities, nothing new, but what really makes this shine and what makes it a hybrid between turn-based and action RPG is that in combat, you can still dodge enemy attacks, you could parry attacks if timed correctly, you can even jump over attacks if you're watching and reacting appropriately. So it's going to be a lot more dynamic, and your second-to-second response time will still have a huge play in combat, while you try to identify what skills, what spells, and what items to use for any certain situation. Plus, a lot of the defensives that we spoke about, which will keep you very engaged throughout this turn-based combat system. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't know if this is what people are really looking for. Like, does a turn-based player really want ARPG elements in their turn-based game, and vice versa? But I would say if you're someone who enjoys ARPGs or played Elden Ring, and played Baldur's Gate 3, I think this is something that's going to be an absolute treat. With that being said, there's plenty of loot and collectibles you could pick up as you're exploring the continent. There's a pretty large open world map that you can traverse and engage enemies on. You're able to fast travel to different regions. So even though, as we said, it is on rails, there's still going to be plenty of open paths to maybe stumble upon an optional boss, but it's not going to be easy to get lost is what I'm saying here. So there will be some freedom on how you're looking to progress your character and where you're looking to explore. Speaking of progressing your character, character. You will level up periodically, and you can equip these passive effects called pictos that will give you increased critical strike chance, or effects like extra action points. There's a lot of different weapons to choose from with different elements that you could choose to buff them with, and each time you level up your character, you can have a set of skill points to increase their stats that you could spend at any checkpoint to fine-tune and tailor-make your build as you please. And each character will have their own unique skill tree to sink your points into. So they do all play a bit differently, plus adding in where you choose to dump your points will drastically change how one of your character plays from another. Something else that deserves an honorable mention is the fact that a lot of these skills in the skill trees seem to be active abilities, and it's not just filled with a whole bunch of passive nodes you got to get through to get to the good stuff. I'm quite a fan of this choice, as each one of these skills are going to heavily impact your gameplay, and you're not just going to be spending points on mindless things like, oh, I can move 5% faster now, or boy oh boy, I gained 5% increased damage. So I'm very happy with the importance and weight they're choosing to give us in each one of these skill trees. Visually speaking, this game looks absolutely jaw-dropping and stands out of the crowd in so many ways. When you take a step back to take it all in, these environments have such a unique and serene beauty to it. Even the way the lighting reflects off different surfaces, it just kind of makes you want to walk around and enjoy the scenery. Now, on the opposite side of the fence, I do think we praise this thing enough, and word around town is that the performance has a bit of an issue. People running this game reported that they're seeing frame rates of 50 to 70 FPS on some pretty well-rounded rigs. I'm talking about this game having bad performance on like a 3080 Ti and an i9 processor, and that's something that needs to be addressed before this thing releases. And this goes hand in hand with the next major issue, and in my opinion, I would consider it the biggest of them all, and that is the lip sync issue. As we said at the top, they went above and beyond to hire exceptional, well-known voice actors to create this very cinematic experience for us. And to see this potentially go down the drain because of this?
Perhaps the Grandis and the SKA exist too.
Coco, you silly scruff. Their village is not far from here.
Oh, really? I know. Don't have time for detours.
This right here could really put a big damper on the whole experience. I mean, this is very immersion breaking. It's going to pull you right out of the game, and it's honestly something you just can't seem to gloss over no matter how hard you try. If I had to guess, it must be because the cutscenes are locked at like 30 FPS, and this may have done something to the timing or syncing to the whole thing. But whatever the hell you want to say, I don't care. It must stop. But all in all, this is a unique experience that we all should be looking to take part in. We don't get games with this combo of genres being thrust together in a seamless way, and it stands on its own because of that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And by the way, we got Amazon links in the description below. These are the products I love and use every single day. So if you're thinking about browsing Amazon for any reason at all, remember me and consider clicking those links. And if you're looking for something else to do, feel free to check out some of these playthroughs coming up on your screen next. Toodles!